Good day to you, and welcome to the second in our series discussing death, pain, and suffering. And I'm pleased to welcome my colleague Feroze, whereby we continue our dialogue and to see how it unfolds. It's a short amount of time, and I hope that we both hope that you find some thoughts for you to think about and to take into account. So with no further ado, let's continue.
Thank you, Craig. I was going to ask really the difference in a sense between pain and suffering, because and what each one really means in your mind, Craig.
Yeah. So I think I'd probably answer that there is physical pain and emotional pain. Of course, physical pain is something that we can sense or see as a result of. Emotional pain, I think, is the result of the continuum of an experience that may manifest itself into a physical pain. I think that suffering is the continuum of that, both of those long-term aspects of how we live life as a human being in our mortal coil. Most recently, it was described to me as our meat suit, which I think is quite a challenging statement, but it is quite an important thing to think about.
It's amusing too.
Yes, a little bit.
And I mean, if you look at we understand pain from, and I agree with how we describe pain, could be mental or physical. But once the pain is inflicted, is it up to us to stop the suffering, stop it from continuing? Because it is something which is enduring and can continue, even when the subject of how this suffering was caused has gone away. Suffering can continue, even though the cause of that suffering, the direct cause of the suffering, has gone. Example, here I'm saying perhaps the direct cause of suffering in this case would be losing a near and dear one. That pain, in a sense, that particular event or action is gone, but the suffering continues, doesn't it?
So I think that loss of one's loved one is a complex process, which there are many therapeutic dialogues in relation to that, because it's a series of time. I don't think that pain ever goes. I think one becomes used to, one becomes accustomed to, and it depends how you want to deal with it in your own life as to whether it becomes a blight or whether it becomes an opportunity to learn.
And the type of suffering that is caused to a lot of people, which is a loss of something more tangible like goods or money, or those worldly things, also cause a huge amount of distress and suffering to people who are attached to those things, if you like to put it this way, and we continue to carry them.
I do sense that to live in the world, we have this suit of armor. It's protection. We're all very sensitive beings at the heart of ourselves. And are we going to look at ourselves, and are we going to learn? Are we going to try to understand what our life journey is? And we attach huge amounts of importance to these value structures, whether it's money or homes or any material possession. We consume them, hence the word consumer. And in this consumption, that we can lose ourselves and the purpose of actually being here. What's it about? I came across, and I want to just sort of share and digress marginally. came across a really lovely discourse about the value of being in nature, and the sense of how nature has its value to us as individuals, and what it is that we can gain. And are we consuming that? Are we engaging with it? Are we gaining something from? So there's this process of materialism and this process of nature. And I think it's the sharing of that.
But I guess what I was leading to is that, are there ways of ending suffering? Because up to a point, it is something that is within us. It is something that is happening inside of us, isn't it? And if anything like that is happening, there must be a way to end that suffering or minimize it. And I was going to just lead to the fact that it's because we don't accept change, because things will always change, isn't it? People will come, people will pass away, like everything else, which is alive. It'll be born, it'll blossom, and then it will decay. And I think it applies not just to goods and other possessions, but actually, if one was hard, if you like, you could even say that to near and dear ones, other human beings, family, parents, unfortunately, sometimes even our children, and so on. I guess what I'm saying is this, that it is not accepting the principle of change, the principle of impermanence, that causes people the greatest distress. Of course, there's a period of grieving, there's a period of pain, and one must endure that, but one can come out of it a bit better if one was to accept change, accept that nothing is permanent, everything is changing. And if we are not prepared to accept change, then we will cling to it. And if we cling to those past things, then that will cause us suffering. It has no particular advantage in clinging to it, because the thing has happened. It has happened. Well, it's a fait accompli.
Yes. I think that the natural process of holding on to the status quo is the fear of what happens when we let go, because it's the unknown. Who will I become if I accept that, whatever that is? How am I able to know myself if I let go of that aspect of a relationship or that individual goal that I may try to attain? And yet, it's the impermanence. Everything is impermanent. As the older I have got, the more I recognize that the control and the attempts that we have to control the environment, control change within ourselves, it's an illusion.
Good. So I think we sort of agree that yes, there are events that cause us pain and difficulty, but if we were more accepting to change and accepting the natural law of nature, the law of nature of something that begins, which blossoms and comes to an end, and we all have to give things up in a sense. I guess what I'm also asking you is that yes, is there an advantage in going through this process of suffering? Is there? Yes, you can minimize suffering, as we talked just now, by accepting change. But when you are enduring suffering, is there any benefit, in a sense, for us as human beings?
Well, I think that's quite a difficult question, actually, because you and I can evaluate our experiences of suffering because we have chosen to trod upon a path which gives us an understanding. We are looking for answers and meaning. And not everybody is ready or has the passion or the desire to find meaning. And I think it's a question to ask oneself: what is the meaning of all of this? It's a difficult question, and it creates a sense of how much of a molecule we are in the great purpose of the experiment of being a human being.
Now, I was looking at one of Sister Miriam's, for people listening, Sister Miriam is channeled by Michelle, our colleague Michelle Spencer. And what she said struck something really, really beautiful. She said, it is in the falling that you learn humility. And it is in the rising that you find strength. I guess these words resonate strongly, but it's not a one-way traffic. People hit a crossroad, don't they? And the crossroad can take them to, I wouldn't say enlightenment, but actually Rumi said, he said, the wound is the place where the light enters the heart. So this sorrow, this pain could actually enlighten a person and lead them in one direction, or it may make them fall. Because this crossroad is not automatic. It doesn't always lead to enlightenment. It can lead to also great difficulty and further suffering.
No, I think that it's okay for us to pontificate about these subjects when we are not in a place of distress. And in that moment of distress, it's very hard when the emotional and physical body is under extreme pressures to process events, to be able to look and say, well, this is all a lesson of enlightenment. It's a very hard place to do. But it's often afterwards. It's often when the dust has started to settle, repercussions upon our physical self and our emotional and mental self. You start to question, how did I manage that for myself? Have I survived? What has been the cost? What has been the emotional and physical reaction to this process that I've been through? And often the process may be 2 or 3 times of the same story, but in a different format with a different set of characters. Not necessarily bereavement, but an emotional relationship, a marriage. Why is it that people get married 3 or 4 times? What's going on there? Is it the person? It's a question. It's not meant as a specific.
Look, I think I would do injustice if I implied in any way that this was easy. First of all, it's certainly not easy when you're in the time of great distress and suffering. Secondly, nor do I want to imply that our reaction is immediate. It's not often. It cannot be. There's a period of grieving. There's a period of reflection. There's a period of assessing our feelings and our strengths and weaknesses. But I think you will find that more often than not, a lot of charities are set up in that way. If a young person dies for a particular reason, then the charity, that the parents of that child, because by helping other human beings, they heal themselves. This is the root of healing. Of course, nothing happens immediately, but therein lies your path of healing, isn't it?
Yes, it's a process of recognition.
Yes, but more importantly, it's a person beginning to feel compassionate himself in such a way that they don't want others to suffer what they did. This is a more often than not, they say, look, my child might have suffered this way. I don't want anybody else's child to suffer. So let's do something about it. And a change takes place. And that change and that process also is healing for the individual, because then the life is not, I'm assuming life, is not lost in vain. It's created a purpose and it's helped other people. So
I think the value of how one expresses and to share that experience for others. And what came to my mind is that what we're talking about today is it's planting seeds that somewhere within the moments of distress, within suffering, with loss, within whether it is personal or of a relationship, that we can plant a seed to say there will be a time, there will be a reflection, and there will be an opportunity to reevaluate, and that there are many out there that will be able to help. And I think that's what our work is today.
Yeah, I agree. Very well put. The last thing, if I think perhaps our time is up, but last thing I say is that we as individuals need to be aware not to inflict pain and suffering on others. I mean, we're talking about receiving pain or feeling pain and suffering as an individual, but equally important is for us to be aware that we don't be the cause of pain and suffering for others. And I think one tends to forget that and be aware and mindful.
You know, so often people walk around with the blinkers on and they forget to take them off and recognize that there is always a cause and an effect. And the cause may be to ourselves and the effect may be also to another. And we are equally responsible for our actions. And just to remember, you throw the stone in the pond, the ripples go out. And if you throw your anger into the pond, the anger goes out to others. We have to take care.
Completely.
Thank you. And
Thank
I look
you.
forward to our next meeting.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Take care.